Welcome to the Fantasy Flex podcast from Action Network and FantasyLabs. I'm your host, Mahserejian, and I'm joined by my co-host, Sean Koerner. Last episode, we discussed some breakout wide receivers, so if you missed that, it's available now on your podcast feed or on Action Network's YouTube page. Give us a 5-star rating and like the video while you're there. Today, we're back to the most important position on the field, quarterback. Now, before we get into specific players, Sean, what's your preference when it comes to different types of quarterback leagues? Do you like one quarterback, two quarterbacks, super flex? Let me know.
I like 2 QB super flex formats because when you're in a league where you only have to start one quarterback, it makes the most important position in real life way less valuable in fantasy, way easier to just punt completely. I'm a big fan of late round quarterback drafting, or not even draft the quarterback and just play the waiver wire. So because you're going to have 32 starting quarterbacks at any given time, other than bye weeks. So, assuming 15 quarterbacks are taken in a 12-team league, you have over 15 starting quarterbacks available to you on the waiver wire at any given time. So it makes it less important to kind of attack quarterback, especially earlier in drafts, in my opinion. But if you're in a 2-quarterback or super flex league, they start flying out in the first round, even, as they should, because there's such a massive drop-off once you get to quarterback 32. You're not going to have any quarterbacks available ever on the waiver wire, unless it's a rare situation, like Brady Cook last year might have been still available in some leagues. But it's just more important to have, at least 3 quarterbacks at all times. It just gives the position the, value it deserves, because it is the most important position in real life, and it really changes the strategy for the better, in my opinion.
Yeah, and with more rushing quarterbacks, there's a lot more value, like on the bench or like on the waiver. So I get it. Like Superflex, I do prefer Superflex for like my dynasty leagues, obviously, because you don't want quarterbacks on the wire. That looks gross. Unless you're one of my dynasty leagues with Bryce Young on as my QB2. Wow. And that hasn't been ideal. So I haven't exactly been winning that one. But we'll discuss these quarterbacks in a way that anyone in any league will know what to look for in draft day. So let's jump right into who we love from the top 12. So you're not starting Bryce Young at the end of the season. Who's that top 12 quarterback you love this year, Sean?
Yeah, I love my guy, Trevor Lawrence, who's quarterback 10, 80th overall on Yahoo right now, according to ADP. Right now, he's my quarterback 5, 64th overall. So I'm not saying to take him there. I'm not saying to take him as the 5th quarterback off the board, but it just shows that you can wait for him. Typically he goes outside the top 75. Love getting him if he falls in me there, which is usually the case. But, last year he was quarterback 6 in points per game, career year. A lot of that was due to career highs in both touchdown passes with 29 and rushing touchdowns with 9 rushing touchdowns. I expect plenty of regression there. I'm not expecting him to match those. But his volume could actually go up. I keep mentioning this, but the Jaguars were 13-4 last year. They played with the lead at the 3rd highest rate. So they were able to just lean on the run a lot more. Whereas this year, I'm expecting them to trail a little bit more. I'm not saying they're going to be a losing team, but they're going to trail more than last year, which that's just more dropbacks overall for Lawrence to have, which, is not only more passing attempts, it's more scrambles. So more rush upside as well. And I still expect him to be pretty aggressive around the goal line when it comes to rushing. I know that they've been experimenting with the tush push. We could have that this year with him. So I think he still has a ton of upside. And last year, we have to remember the whole wide receiver room was in flux for the first few weeks, because heading in, we thought, Brian Thomas Jr., the next Randy Moss, is going to be legit. They have Travis Hunter, this excellent two-way player, and things kind of fell apart. So they brought in Jacoby Myers. Parker Washington actually turned out to be Jerry Rice Jr. So now they have their top 2 wide receivers heading in Myers and Washington, where anything they get out of Brian Thomas Jr. or even Travis Hunter is kind of going to be just a bonus this year. And, having a wide receiver depth chart that kind of deep means that Lawrence has a higher floor, where if 1, 2 of their wide receivers go down, he still has 2 high-quality wide receivers to throw to. Plus, Brenton Strange missed a ton of time last year. So I think I love the talent around him. He's heading in year 2 of Lincoln's offense, so he could be even better this year. Even if he doesn't match the touchdown totals last year, I still expect him, to be producing as a top 10 quarterback. So love the fact that we could still get him right around QB 10 this year.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on Lawrence. Love him at QB 10. He should be going higher, obviously, just because 9 rushing touchdowns last year. He showed us a ton of upside, and Travis Etienne's gone. What if they have to keep using Lawrence as a rushing touchdown threat? What if Tootin or Chris Rodriguez aren't getting the job done around the goal line? It's Trevor Lawrence, 10 touchdowns. He's probably not going to be a tush-push demon like Josh Allen, but they're going to roll him out, bootleg him, do his thing. You worry about injury, but that's, anyone could get injured at any time doing anything. Football is a brutal sport. And yeah, Lawrence clearly looked like he took a step. Highest touchdown rate of his career, lowest interception rate since 2022. Yards per attempt tied for his highest, but he still hasn't exactly cracked a hyper efficient season. So there is upside that we haven't seen. And I think, getting Brian Thomas Jr. in his optimal position outside, just going deep, Travis Hunter on his sub packages, Parker Washington, Jacoby Myers doing the dirty work, Brenton Strange doing some dirty work. Ton of upside at this offense at full strength. Who knows? Maybe Tootin is a receiving demon. He had a really good season in his junior year as a receiver at Virginia Tech. I think there is some untapped potential. If Trevor Lawrence were to end up quarterback 1 overall, would you be shocked?
Ooh, I would assume Josh Allen probably missed a handful of games. I would be shocked. Okay. I would love that personally. I wouldn't be shocked if he's top 3 though. But I think if Josh Allen is healthy all 17 games, that'd be a tall task.
Let's try to hear you out.
But yeah. Well, you know what? If they do give him a Josh Allen tush push role, then no, I wouldn't be shocked. Okay. But I'm just hoping, top 5 would be excellent. Top 5 would be great. But top 3 would be just amazing. But I still think Josh Allen's the king.
Yeah, Josh Allen is king. I mean, he was quarterback 4 in total points, quarterback 6 in points per game already last year. So we're not far off. We're definitely not far off from that top tier. So we're getting there with Trevor. My guy is someone who's done it before. It's Joe Burrow, quarterback 4 in most leagues, maybe quarterback 5, 6, depending on your format. On ESPN, Joe Burrow is available in the 70s with Jackson Dart and just 8 picks ahead of Trevor Lawrence, your guy. And we're 1 season removed from Joe Burrow having or leading the league in pretty much everything. Completions, attempts, passing yards, passing touchdowns, first downs, yards per game, et cetera, et cetera. He was the best passing quarterback 2 years ago. 70% completion percentage. He has the highest completion percentage ever. So far, at least throughout his career. He has the all-time record. And he's he's an even year guy, oddly enough. Even years are king for Joe Burrow outside of 2021. And it's mostly just him staying healthy. It has nothing to do with some voodoo or anything. He had the calf injury last year that really hampered him. Or it was the calf injury and then it was the toe injury. I believe he tore his toe. Mm-hmm. He still ran a little bit, just not as efficient, but he's healthy entering the season. He's about to be 30, in December. So he's getting up there in age, but he's a pocket passer for the most part at his soul. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins are there. If they're there, I'm in. That's what really matters. If he has his 2 wide receiver 1s, I wouldn't say wide receiver 1A, 1B because Jamar Chase is just historically great, but T is good enough to be a wide receiver 1 on half the teams in the league. So just an awesome top 2. Don't love their depth, but we're betting on the 2 being healthy. But like I said, ESPN, you could get him as quarterback 6 and he could fall. Sleeper, I think he's pretty late. It's Joe Burrow is weirdly available in a lot of these drafts. People don't want to deal with the injury risk. Yeah. But even in leagues where passing is nerfed with 25 yards passing per point, 4 points per passing touchdown, Joe Burrow still gets it done. So I'm in on Burrow in his his ADP, where he's going. I trust him. We're betting on all these guys to stay healthy, and I look at it if your league is that 6-point passing touchdown, 20 yards per pass, he probably will outscore Josh Allen. If the passing scoring is like that, you should probably be taking Joe Burrow as quarterback 1 overall, because A, he's done it before, and B, it's just like everyone's healthy. The O-line is probably improving this year. So I'm optimistic on the Bengals and this passing offense. How do you feel?
Yeah, I'm with you. He's my quarterback 4, and like you mentioned, it's just he's got to stay healthy, and I think that's why we're getting a mini discount on him. Is people just don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with the injury risk. But I wouldn't be shocked if he stays healthy all season. You mentioned that they kept T. Higgins, so they still have Chase and Higgins, arguably the best wide receiver duo in the league. I wonder how many games all three have been healthy. I know Higgins and Burrow have missed a ton of time, so I wouldn't be shocked to find out they've all been healthy like only 4 games or something crazy like that. So just I'm all in on the Bengals passing attack. Like you said, if you're in any kind of different scoring system where you get more points for passing touchdowns or even more points for passing yards, he's going to be even more valuable. So just assuming your typical league, he's my QB4. And he has more rushing upside than I think people think he can run. He's just been dealing with so many knee injuries and trying to stay healthy, but he does have the ability to, rush for a couple touchdowns, maybe 200 yards like he's done a few times. So he's not like Matthew Stafford, where you're going to get 0 rushing stats every game. He could give you a couple games with, 20 plus rushing yards. So, I think with Burrow, it's really the high floor and high ceiling combo that makes him appealing if you're going to take a top, 6 quarterback.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with Burrow, it's the knee injury was, I believe, his rookie year. So that was his only knee issue, but it's been toe and calf and then wrist in 20. And that's the crazy thing. He had the wrist issue, which everyone was scared of. I was a little scared of, but I still was taking T and Jamar because I love them. And that was the year he led everything in passing. So, he could tough it out. It's just when he needs surgery, he really can't do anything about it. And he started the season really poor last year, but when he came back, he was still pretty damn good outside of the rushing aspect, which was hindered. But yeah, I'm optimistic on Burrow. Who are you not so optimistic on? Who's the quarterback you hate in the top 12?
Yeah, I don't like taking Lamar Jackson as the second quarterback off the board, which is kind of funny because he's my QB2 overall. But he's going 35th overall on Yahoo. In my overall rankings, he's actually 56th. So what's happening here is I just have a bigger drop off from Josh Allen to just this tier 2 of quarterbacks with Lamar, Drake May, Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels, all those guys I have bunched together, but they're kind of spaced out a round or two. So I don't want to be the second guy taking a quarterback, and that's typically Lamar Jackson. Plus, he's been dealing with injuries. He's probably on the later stage of his prime, I would say. He's probably not smack dab in the middle of his prime at this point. And we kind of saw what happens when he plays through injury last year. He had that 4-game stretch where he had 3 games of less than 15 rushing yards. So his value is completely shot. And they still have Derrick Henry. They're going to lean on Derrick Henry, especially around the end zone. Lamar doesn't really run in too many rushing touchdowns. So, his path to being a top 5 quarterback has always come from his rushing yards. And then if he could put it all together and throw for 30 plus touchdowns, he has QB1 overall upside. But I think there's just enough red flags there where I'm already cautious drafting quarterback early as is, that I don't want to take a guy that I have any concerns about whatsoever. And I think Lamar does. Just with, he's commented that he kind of wants to dial back using his legs as much just to, stay healthy. So he's a guy that I just think is kind of on the downturn of his career where you have all these ascending guys like Drake May. I wouldn't mind taking Drake May around ADP, but yeah, Lamar at QB2, just not really a big fan of taking a quarterback there.
Yeah, no, I like with Burrow, like I was saying earlier, I think Burrow in a league where even when passing is nerfed, I think Burrow could outscore Lamar if Lamar's not running at the pace that he had been in his all-pro, MVP caliber years. Like if the passing, like Lamar's passing is fantastic, regardless. The past few seasons, his yards per attempt, touchdown rates, they've all been among the best in the league. So I don't think his passing is going to suddenly be washed. But if the rushing isn't there, and if the rushing touchdown specifically with Derrick Henry taking on that workload isn't there, the upside's not really there for me. Or like he's probably more of a high floor guy, if anything, which is kind of funny to think about with Lamar Jackson. You don't really expect Lamar to be high floor, but that is kind of what he is if the rushing isn't at the pace that it was before. And I'm kind of with you. I don't want to take Lamar unless I'm in like a best ball league and I'm mixing things up and I have Bengals or I have Ravens for that week 17 matchup. And yeah, I just don't want to rely on him. It feels like he always misses time or he misses a stretch. He plays through injury. He's not quite old yet, but it just feels like his body's taken a lot of, even if it's not big hits, it's just a lot of work because of all the rushing throughout his career. So yeah, I'm not in love with Lamar unless you get a decent discount on him in drafts. Then it's like, yeah, but also like you said with May, I think May can outscore Lamar, and I don't think anybody's shocked this year.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to his floor, also consider this: what happens if Zay Flowers ever misses time? He has yet to play a game without his guy. Flowers has been healthy every single game, so if Zay Flowers misses time, Bateman, and I do like Jacoby Lane, but if Bateman and Lane are the top two wide receivers, they don't have Isaiah Likely anymore. That's a rough situation if Flowers misses time. So that I always consider that part of a quarterback's floors if their top guy gets hurt. And I think if Flowers gets hurt, we haven't seen that yet, but I think he'd be pretty screwed. Maybe he uses his legs a bit more and kind of makes up for it that way, but he'd be in a bit of a pickle if Flowers ever missed time.
Yeah, in fantasy, it might even out with the rushing, but
yeah.
And I love Bateman, don't get me wrong. Lane, Surratt, I like their rookies, but Mark Andrews isn't getting any younger, and it doesn't look like he's getting any better either. So Andrews is probably the one that's looking washed, and that's not helping anyone. They didn't like Matthew Hibner, Cuevas, they drafted as well. It's just like I don't see an immediate replacement, even if they bring in like a Jonnu Smith off the street. I don't think that's fixing anything. I kind of would have liked to see Waller, who we discussed on the previous episode with Tet McMillan. I would have liked to see Waller on the Ravens in that Isaiah Likely role, but I guess not. Who knows midseason? Who knows what's going to happen? The guy I'm in the top 12 that I'm not drafting or not willingly drafting outside of mixing things in best ball is Jalen Hurts. I believe we discussed Hurts on a previous episode, but just to rehash a little bit, losing AJ Brown is massive. That is a step too far in terms of how that impacts a quarterback that is one of the quarterback's best friends possible, a true wide receiver one alpha like Brown. And I like Devonta Smith. I like Mekhi Lemon. I think Eli Stowers can be an impactful receiving tight end in the future. But man, I don't think the Eagles are going to ever reach with Jalen Hurts are going to reach the heights that they did offensively or even close. I think they could be a good above average offense with what they have now, but the O-line's not getting any younger. Lane Johnson's probably going to retire soon. The interior with, Juergens, Dickerson, it's just, we've seen a lot of, injuries and mixing and matching. Mailata, he was hurt last year, I believe, but he's fine. I don't know. The Eagles, it feels very scary drafting Jalen Hurts and expecting anything close with the passing specifically. They want him to run more, but his rushing hasn't been as efficient in recent years, mostly due to the tush push. But how has that impacted his legs? Are you in on Jalen Hurts?
No, I am not. Although I wouldn't be shocked if he has, a top 5 season. I think what you just said, the tush push kind of falling apart, is kind of hurting his floor and ceiling. Because the league, I think they've given up trying to ban it. But I think defenses have gotten smarter on how to kind of like slow it down. And I think it was the Bears that actually figured out just punch the ball, like go after him, and they punch the ball out, force a turnover. But the league is actually starting to call like offensive offside, false starts on their alignment, which kind of limited how often they even used it last year. So I think, that could limit his upside around the goal line. Plus, I did this whole study. I watched every single Saquon Barkley rush attempt inside the 5-yard line, and there were about 3 to 5 attempts where he got right on the inch line. Some of the times they actually called it a touchdown, reversed it, where Hurts got a touchdown the very following play. So he could have easily had 2 to 3 fewer rushing touchdowns last year. Just all these little quirky things. And they lost A.J. Brown, and they drafted Mekhi Lemon and Eli Stowers, but both are kind of, having a shaky camp. Lemon's injured right now, so it looks like Wicks might actually be the wide receiver too. So, maybe these guys step up, but he's going to be without AJ Brown, so maybe a little less upside in the passing game. He's being drafted, right around where I'm not trying to reach for a quarterback anyway. So yeah, he's a guy that I'm usually not getting much of.
Yeah, no, you mentioned Wicks. I mean, I've been a Wicks believer in recent years, but it's like if you couldn't get it done with like Jordan Love, I don't expect it getting done with Jalen Hurts. That's probably that is a downgrade for me as from one passer to another, even with Wicks snap share being weird. I think Wicks, if he has a couple weeks, especially in best ball, if you're like, wow, Wicks really helped me, it's like, yeah, sure, but I don't think he's going to be a guy that really helps elevate Jalen Hurts or get him back to the levels that he needs to without an AJ Brown. It really would take Mekhi Lemon staying healthy and doing what he did last year as an All-American at USC for Jalen Hurts, being the layup target, kind of like dirty work kind of guy for him that frees up Devonta Smith downfield. I'd love to see it. And I think Dallas Goedert still being around is really crucial because he was a big guy for Jalen Hurts around the red zone. They used Dallas Goedert had his first double-digit touchdown season because of these interesting packages that took away from the tush push that really helped diversify them. So I think the offense is still going to be okay. It's not going to fall apart, but it's just not going to be as efficient. And if Hurts isn't rushing, his success rates dropped every year for the past 4 years, I believe. Mm-hmm. I just don't think it's going to be as fantasy viable. High floor, could finish top 5 still, but I just don't think the upside is there for a top 3 finish again. And the other quarterbacks going around him, I'd rather have them all. I think Caleb Hurts, where Caleb's the upside, Hurts is the floor. I think that's where the conversation is. But I'd rather just wait for a Trevor Lawrence or a Justin Herbert even, because I think they have similar upside and more consistency potentially as well. But before we move on, don't forget that right now is the best time to check out FantasyLabs. We've got new features this season like live draft tools, tiered player rankings, best ball stack analysis, and more. Check out the NFL season-long package at FantasyLabs.com/subscribe and use the promo code FLEX20 for $20 off of an annual subscription. That's FLEX20 for $20 off at FantasyLabs.com/subscribe. Okay, sleepers. We did this for our wide receivers in the most recent episode. Let's do it for the quarterbacks. Who is your quarterback sleeper outside of the top 12 this year?
So this was Tyler Shuck for me, but a big reason for that was Jordan Tyson. And now with Tyson, I don't know when he's going to play or if he does return, if he's going to stay healthy. So I'm kind of out on Shuck at ADP. And, unlike the fantasy football AI Twitter guys who just, pre-made their tweets and opinions back in May, I update mine constantly. So in late August, I'm out on Shuck at cost because of Tyson being hurt. So there. Having said that, I'm in on Malik Willis being, a potential sleeper where, I have him as my QB 19 now. His ADP is still right around QB 22. Not somebody you really need about or should draft in a one quarterback league if you have 12 teams. He's not a guy that you need to draft. But he has enough rushing upside where I think we need to keep close tabs on him early in the season. As a potential streaming option in the right spots. Or, he could just become a low-end QB1 if this offense is better than expected because, initially I thought they have the worst group of pass catchers, and that's probably still true. But, I've been really impressed with Caleb Douglas. They should get Chris Bell at some point. He's coming back from a torn ACL. Not sure what they'll get from him this year, but he could, return and be really good. We can't forget Devon Achan's an excellent pass catching back. So he can rack up extra yards, just dumping it off to him when he's not scrambling. So we got to be careful overlooking quarterbacks that have massive rushing upside as we've seen. I think it was former Fantasy Labs employee Ian Hardest over at RotoWire now. I think he said it was 80% of quarterbacks that have at least 100 rush attempts have finished top 12 or something crazy like that. Malik Willis, if he stays healthy, he's going to have 100 plus rushing attempts. And I think his job's safe. Quinn Ewers, Cam Miller, they're not going to replace him. I think for Willis to not start games, he's going to have to be hurt. So I just think Willis is one of those guys that he's going to be available in most leagues. Definitely a guy that if he pops early on, you're going to want to add him just in case because he does have that rushing upside. They give him really high floor and ceiling combo. So even in a 2 quarterback league, he's an excellent pick later on because he has that rushing upside. He can provide you, a decent score week in and week out with his rushing upside. So I think Willis is a guy I've been kind of growing on because of preseason and how camp's been going. So I think Willis, especially, in 2 QB leagues, if you have to draft them, is someone I think is a sleeper right now.
Yeah, I think I'm more in on Willis now with the Jaden Higgins injury for CJ Stroud, where I was like, yeah, Stroud might have more upside just with the passing and he runs a little bit. And then Shuck with, Tyson. But now it's like early season, Willis, if you want to get cute, this like if you draft a Patrick Mahomes and you don't want to start Patrick Mahomes against Denver in week 1. You take Willis, you start him against the Raiders. So you can do like a little bit of a combo, take a back. Like I don't love taking a backup quarterback, but that's a strategy you might try. There's some other guys like I don't know. I'm looking at Trevor Lawrence plays against Cleveland. Actually Cleveland's defense without Garrett, who knows? Drake May against the Seahawks in Seattle. If you're not that confident week 1, you could start him with Malik Willis against the Raiders. Like I think, and then just see what happens. If he's a bench quarterback, usually with a May, I wouldn't want a bench quarterback, but there's strategies with Willis to go around. But if you do wait, yeah, Willis is a fine QB too. I wouldn't want him as my QB1 outside of week 1 or just playing it from here after that. But yeah, I don't hate it. The rushing upside is pretty sweet. He has 4 rushing touchdowns in his career on like 74 rushes, 5.5 yards per attempt. Clearly a very good rusher. It's just about the passing. And, Caleb Douglas has shined in camp. Yes, Malik Washington is a slot target, I guess. And Dulcich is healthy right now, but I don't love the receiving. I think it's still the worst receiving core in the league as far as pass catchers go, even with Achane. So I'm not buying into any real upside beyond like specific matchups. But yeah, I am more interested now with the Tyson and Higgins injuries in that range of quarterbacks than I was a week or so before. But my sleeper right now is going to be Kyler Murray, old friend, Vikings quarterback now. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Juwan Jennings, TJ Hawkinson, who knows? But that's a pretty damn good trio of wide receivers. Murray still runs. He's one of the most fantasy-friendly quarterbacks on the ground throughout the past, 7 years or so. I'm looking at it like, again, I hate to go back to Josh Dobbs and Nick Mullins, but if Josh Dobbs and Nick Mullins can get right under KOC, why not Kyler Murray? Yeah, J.J. McCarthy failed. Sam Darnold didn't. Carson Wentz had moments last year where I was like, damn, is Carson Wentz back? He wasn't. He got hurt. But I just think it's not too good to fail, but it's as good of a situation for Kyler Murray as he's going to get. A dome environment, too, with Minnesota. Not that he didn't have that in Arizona, but like, man, with wide receivers like this, a head coach, a competent organization in the Vikings versus the Cardinals. And to say the Vikings, I mean, Vikings are career runner-up / losers, but they're still, I feel like, a well-ish run organization minus the J.J. McCarthy debacle. Are you open to Kyler Murray, who is pretty much a top 10 quarterback anytime he starts on average?
Yeah, I've been kind of pounding the table for Kyler ever since, I don't know, May, because I was like, there's no way he doesn't beat out JJ McCarthy to be the week 1 starter. Like that would be a career-ending QB battle loss right there. And I was actually surprised how soon they announced that he was the week 1 starter, right? It was a few weeks ago, definitely before preseason. So I think it's clear he is the starter until he gets injured. I think he would have to really suck for them to turn back to JJ, they might trade him away, right? So I think the concerns around Kyler were his job security. Those are gone now. So you have a guy that could be a top 10 quarterback who's still going around like QB 17. So I think that even if it's definitely a 2 quarterback league, I would take him at cost right now. Absolutely. Even if it's a 1 QB league, he might not even be drafted in some formats. So you could take him if I just punt quarterback altogether and he's sitting there in the last round, I am scooping him up every time and just seeing if he works out, he works out. If he doesn't, I now have the waiver wire at my disposal. So I think he's an excellent, week 1 starting quarterback and kind of go from there because he absolutely has the upside and he's in the scheme and the weapons to be a top 10 quarterback. So I don't know why you wouldn't take him right now at cost.
Yeah, no, like I said, with Patrick Mahomes, if you draft him, you don't want to start in week one. Kyler Murray could be your QB2, and you could be a little more confident in that week one matchup. He gets the Packers at home, and that Packers defense looks pretty damn gross right now with no Micah Parsons. And just like that depth chart, if you just look at it and you think that is going to be a top 20 defense, I mean, good luck. I do think that first week, maybe, Kyler Murray sets the world on fire. Not that he has been in camp, but I think the reason that they named him QB1 is just to get him as many reps as possible, because that's probably what he needs, reps with his new team. So, yeah, and JJ McCarthy, people are like, oh, what if JJ McCarthy takes over midseason and Kyler sucks? Like you said, I don't think JJ is going to be on this team midseason. Carson Wentz is still on the roster. They have Max Brosmer, QB4, who they like and is a Minnesota guy. And I think JJ McCarthy, sell while you can and get, you don't want to get Trey Lance basically, where you're just stuck holding the bag on this guy. And it's like, you held him too long. You didn't trade him soon enough, blah, blah, blah. And if you know he's not the guy, and I mean, the text messages between Diana Rossini and KOC made it seem like JJ McCarthy is not that guy. You're not that guy, pal. And again, Kyler was terrible last year, but that was his only really bad season. He came back from an ACL a few years ago, and it's just, he hasn't been the same, but it's also, again, the organization, the team. Marvin Harrison didn't really pan out as this wide receiver 1 alpha that would fix the offense. Yeah, Michael Wilson turned out to be great with Brissett, and Brissett ran the offense better, but what if that offense was just better tailored for Brissett, who's more of a pocket passer? I trust KOC. I trust Kyler's talent. Do I trust Kyler, the person? I don't know, but I'm willing to find out at QB 17, 18. And it sounds like you are as well.
Yeah. Let me be clear. I don't think this is also like good for like Justin Jefferson. I think Kyler, he kind of absorbs most of his fantasy points, with his rushing upside. So I don't think this is a good thing for someone like JJ, but we talked about, do expect him to bounce back, because it can't be much worse than last year with JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, the Justin Jefferson thing. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins 8 with Kyler. Hey, Hollywood Brown 8 with Kyler. So we're not like saying it's impossible, but yeah, if you're paying, like, I don't want to pay. Oh, I'd still take CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra St. Brown in PPR leagues, but in half, I mean, what if JJ just has like 14 touchdowns? That's not shocking either. It's just, I'm willing to gamble and find out with JJ because he's Justin Jefferson, and I think Kyler can lock onto a wide receiver 1, but that's a conversation for another day. And that's it for us today. That we'll be back with the Fantasy Sleepers and Fantasy Busts here on the Fantasy Flex. Don't forget to use promo code FLEX20 at FantasyLabs.com for $20 off of an annual subscription. For Sean and myself, we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.